Was it a life of obscurity, trying to explain to people why you do what you do?
We did not take any salaries for 3 years. We pitched to almost 200 VCs before we raised our first round.
We were literally at negative balance because we were building a lot. We didn't had any cash in the account.
The first 2 years of our journey, we literally had zero money.
For a startup, every penny counts.
What were the challenges you were facing before you came on this platform?
It took a lot of time for me to explain it to my own father that what am I doing, right?
So to get that faith from the person sitting in front of you, it was 10x more difficult. Explaining the product, it's not a scam.
Just the time taken to explain what we were doing, it used to just take that little bit longer.
Storytelling is a trait which most technical founders lack, and it doesn't come naturally to them.
How do we even build a prototype without having some cash?
So quantify how did coming on the episode on Ideabaaz helped?
Our story changed overnight. The moment our episode aired, we saw subsequent rise in traffic. It is 18x rise.
When the website traffic rose to 2,888% high, we've hit about 4.75 rupees.
On Shark Tanks, my revenue went 2.5x to 3x. Here we saw 5x.
We were oversubscribed. We raised 1.5 mil in that time period.
I was able to get all the calls. I'm getting calls all throughout the day.
What's the takeaway for people who maybe are sitting on the fence?
I have a very unpopular but honest opinion on this. Don't do it. Unless you have an appetite for risk.
Please don't get glamorized by hearing us or by seeing this show or an Ideabaaz episode. It does extract a heavy toll.
Actually, better than salary, actually building is actually that's the addiction. You know, I cannot go back to a normal job.
So Archana, what is it that you look in a founder other than the idea, the valuation, everything aside?
I would say dunyadari. To me, the person is in la la land. So that automatically is a no-go for me. Hello and welcome to another edition of Startup Table with AJ. AJ being me, Archana Jahagirdar, and we are at the Rukam Capital office as often we are. But this time it's a little bit different. We've got the Ideabaaz edition. Ideabaaz, as all of you know, is a startup show on Z, and it's been a transformative journey for me as well, because I start there as a titan, and of course, hopefully it was transformative for the founders who join me today on this table. ये जो स्टार्टअप टेबल है मेरे लिए बहुत ही अनूठा है, क्योंकि हमने अपनी जर्नी इकट्ठा शुरू करी आइडियाबाज से, जो एक स्टार्टअप रियलिटी शो है, बट आई थिंक वो उसकी सही डेफिनेशन नहीं होगी, क्योंकि यहाँ पे इन सब की जिंदगियाँ बदली, मेरी भी जिंदगी बदली, और अब हम सुनेंगे सबसे कि आइडियाबाज के पहले, दौरान और बाद में कैसी रही हम सबकी जिंदगी. So welcome everybody to this edition of Startup Table with AJ, and I request each one of you to introduce yourself, name, company, and a quick introduction of the product you're doing, and then we get into a conversation. So I'll start with you.
Sure. So thanks for having us. My name is Apurv. I'm co-founder of Timbuktu.
I'm Maitri, co-founder and CEO of Timbuktu.
We are India's leading student gig hub, where we promote that college students pick up part-time jobs, similar to how they do in the West.
So thanks for having me. My name is Gautami and co-founder of AquaRx. So we develop India's first amphibious platform and an hovering autonomous underwater vehicle. So more into maritime and robotics.
Thank you, ma'am, for having me. Myself, Ritvik. I'm a co-founder at Khageshwar Aviation Technology. So we are trying to pioneer the urban air mobility using this technology called as eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicle, so that we can solve the mobility limitations for tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities itself.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you, Rukam Capital and Team Ideabaaz. My name is Apurva. I am the founder and CEO of Spacefields. We are a defense and aerospace startup based in Bangalore. We specialize in solid propulsion.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Ria. I'm the co-founder of Psychedelic. We are one of the pioneers of neurotech and health 2.0 in India. And we are building these headphones which not only play music but also track and change your mood as you go with it.
I hope our mood is going to be good on this table without psychedelic.
Hi Arjuna, I'm Dhananjay. I'm the co-founder of Blip. We are a mobility and convenience app. We guarantee parking to our users in just 2 minutes. And we are glad to be here.
Okay, so television पे आने से पहले how was everybody's life? क्या हो रहा था आप सबकी जिंदगी में? I'm going to start with you, Maitri, and we then go.
So before Ideabaaz, it took a lot of time for me to explain it to my own father that what am I doing, right? He thinks सुबह जा रही है and शाम को आ रही है, बीच में पता नहीं, she's all the time stressed on the call. So for us, before Ideabaaz, it took, I mean, for us, especially we are into category creation, for us, it took a lot of time explaining people and building that trust. There is no culture of part-time, among students. So for us, before Ideabaaz, it was more of a cultural barrier that was a massive challenge. It took time for us to explain how different we are from, internship, how gig is different. So for us, that was our situation where a lot of our effort and friction was in explaining the product in itself.
For you at Blip, what was life before Ideabaaz?
Life before Ideabaaz was a little, too different.
Not too different.
Pre and post, yeah, it was absolutely different before that. Because we were primarily a B2B app. We are a B2B company, and we were venturing or transitioning into a B2B to a B2C venture, directly from B2B to B2C. And we couldn't think of a better platform to
Nee, but
inform everybody about
No,
this.
but what was difficult, because you're also in category creation.
Yes.
So what was difficult about how you were going about it? What were the challenges you were facing before you came on this platform?
The biggest challenge that we were facing is informing people what we do, making them understand what we do. Think about it, if I had to book an 11-second advertisement on a national television at a prime time, it would have costed me a bomb. For a startup, every penny counts. And then I come on a television show. I speak only about my journey, about my product's journey, what we do. We tell entire country and in fact entire world what we do, how our journey began. So I think that was a very big addition, and life changed after that episode.
So for us, before Ideabaaz, we were just building. We were inside four walls, building the product, 10 people, day in, day night, just working and waiting for the world to know about it. So it was, and we were just about to launch our product before Ideabaaz. So to get that faith from the person sitting in front of you, it was 10x more difficult. Explaining the product, showing that I'm a loyal founder, I'm not gonna, take your money and run away, because that's a very common thing, right? It's not a scam. I will deliver something. Don't worry. So that kind of thing before the Ideabaaz show was one of our biggest problems. And I think that was something that was one of our biggest pain points at that particular point of time.
Was it also difficult to explain your product?
100%, because I come from this space of where deep tech enters consumer tech, and we are health 2.0. So people still think that I am clinical and medical. So explaining health 2.0 also to India was very difficult. And when they see something on Ideabaaz or a show like that, then that's where people are like, okay, now I understand what she's writing in her big science page and blog and all that means. So yeah, 100%.
What are your challenges?
Yeah, I think for most of the deep tech founders, including us, storytelling is a trait which most technical founders lack, and it doesn't come naturally to them. So our startup is a little over 4 years now, and to explain a startup which is government oriented, very hardware first, manufacturing led, etc. Even the selection of let's say investors, etc., is a very limited group, right? And to pitch to them itself requires a very strong acumen of storytelling. So I think Ideabaaz in that sense was the right platform to come to.
It's interesting. And 4 of you in deep tech and hardware, I mean, that's unusual collection of getting so many founders who are very similar. Ritvik,
So I think,
what were your problems?
my problems were something a little bit different, ma'am. So I was coming from a background where my parents, both are professors. So they wanted me to have a settled life. I was young, and I chose a very different path, to be the first entrepreneur in the family. So they always, were a little bit spectacle, that, I have to have a settled life, at least at the early age. and then starting a deep tech journey where, costs just go like anything. I'm not earning anything. I'm just, trying to burn everything which I have in savings. So it the difficulty was not the failures, but the difficulty was to explain to my own, parents that, that whatever we are building, for something new. We are building for something change. And I think, that was the very biggest pain point, because eventually, investors, money, everything was another thing. But, having your own family to understand that depth, that what you're building, was difficult.
So I think I resonate with both of them. For most of us in a hardware centric startup, for us to explain what we are doing to our own parents and then to customers, both are very difficult part. Like when I started just out of college with Jitendra, for us the first set of questions were like, how do we even build a prototype without having some cash? So we had to use our own skills to monetize, do some stuff, earn some money, and then build the first prototype, take it to Indian Navy, tell them what we're doing, get their validation. So I think that was one of our biggest challenge pre Ideabaaz, which we could tell a story on platform and solve it.
So for Timbuktu, it's a community creation game, whether it's on the recruiter side or the student side. So we used to go to a lot of these expos. I mean, we still do, but it just the time taken to explain what we were doing and how gig could benefit you as a business. It used to just take that little bit longer. It used to take a little bit more of that one-on-one kind of a conversation, and that's, I think, where we were, pre-Ideabaaz with regards to how that conversion cycle used to be. Please.
Okay, now the good part that you all want to say. So how did things become better? So quantify it, like if like you got downloads or you got customers, whatever. So I'll start now from you. So quantify, how did coming on the episode on Ideabaaz helped?
Right. So I'll talk a little bit from a financial perspective. I mean,
मतलब वो startup का show है, business का show है,
Yeah.
business ही बात करेंगे.
so I think whether it's the content that we use from the show, or whether people recognizing us from the show, our CAC on both student and the business acquisition side has significantly come down.
How much?
So it has come down by at least 2x on the student side, and on the recruiter side, it has come down 4x.
Wow.
Because I think a lot of our business proprietors watched the show. So the the ads per se are, of course, from clips from the show, combined with our ads. But what's happened is that the efficiency of those ads have just become significantly much better. That's, I would say, the biggest financial benefit that we have seen, apart from, of course, all the community building and the website that we got. I think Maitri will elaborate further on.
So tell me what happened.
So, Archana, the interesting thing that happened was because show went live in 8 different languages and our community spread across the country. What surprised us when the Marathi episode and the Kannada episode went live, it did better than Hindi episode for us. So, we've achieved about 30,000 downloads, in that 1 hour of period when Hindi went live. But the website traffic rose to 2,888% high. Organic searches have increased. Like Dhananjay mentioned, if we had to put money and do that in a commercial. And also, post Ideabaaz, the good thing is, we don't have to explain anybody any longer. That 15 minutes clip has done, I think, a good 2-year explanation cycle for us. But from metric, like Apu said, CAC to LTV is really now lucrative. And at the, third year for us in the operation, I think this was a very crucial year for us to do certain things. And also, like I said, that cultural breakthrough, right? How gig is different from internship. Somewhere that got established on national television. I think that is where a lot of difference.
Are you still, your CAC is still getting optimized?
Yeah.
Still getting optimized?
Yeah. We were at 6 rupees. This month we've hit about 4.75 rupees. And if I tell you my visibility cost, 11 paisa is my visibility cost.
Wow.
That's because Pratik Gandhi gave us one bit saying, mere time pe Timbuktu hota to. That entire bit, 11 paisa, I mean, every money saved is also every, penny earned for us, right? Back. So for us, that cultural breakthrough was something that the show gave us.
Ma'am, just to double click on the CAC piece. So the beauty of Timbuktu is that for the first 2 years, everything was built on ground and via outbound leads, right? So our performance marketing journey itself on the student side started in November last year, and for recruiters, it started in May this year. So as it is, we were on a good trend, but with the Ideabaaz episode, it's been such a sharp decline, and we are still optimizing further. So that's why it is still optimizing.
I think Pratik did a lot of magic, and every titan, including you, you said, I just love the gig space. And that bit also is something that got us a lot of, that cultural establishment.
Well done.
Thank
What did it do for you?
Our story changed overnight the moment our episode aired, because for going our growth, by the way, just on the month where our episode aired, in that month we became the most dominant player of NCR. So we have the highest penetration of all the enterprises and properties across Delhi NCR. All the major properties started taking us seriously because someone somewhere in the decision making position had seen our episode. And the real traffic actually began not on the day of our episode, because when our episode aired, it was the final of women's cricket final.
Yes.
So the real traffic actually picked up in the upcoming weeks, especially once our episode and the clips aired on YouTube and on social media. That is where we saw subsequent rise in traffic. It is 18x rise plus B2B growth increase. And now when I go to meeting, it's not technically that we have to explain anything. Most of the times, the people sitting across the table already know what we do.
So you've been in operations for how many years now?
3 years now.
3 years.
Yes.
So in these 3 years compared to what happened after airing of the episode, like, can you quantify what was the difference?
The biggest differentiation that I would like to bring is, if I had to close a B2B sales deal, it would take normally 6 to 8 months. It is taking less than 45 days now.
Well done.
Nice.
So for us, Archana, it did a lot of different things. So for the first was, if I did n number of orders in the month of October, I did n number of orders in the week of Ideabaaz episode.
Yeah, don't be shy. Tell us, what were those orders, yaar? Yeah, we are talking CAC and all.
It was amazing. And all of this was on, for example, our CAC reduced by 5x. And I want to mention that when we were on Shark Tank season 2 in 2023, my revenue went 2.5x to 3x. Here we saw 5x.
Wow.
It was very significant. And the same thing, the regional bit helped us a lot.
Which languages helped?
Kannada and Bengali. Because that's where, and we generally used to ask, where are you getting these orders from? Because we were just in our third month of selling psychedelic at a pre-launch level. So we were not planning to do all those expensive marketing spend. And that's where we saw significant changes. And one of the best things that happened was Inc. 42 actually recognized us in that month as one of the top 7 health 2.0 entrepreneurs in the world, where the list was headed by Sam Altman and Tim Cook. So they were the first 2 and we were the 6th one.
Well,
that was like really amazing, and all of that was organic. So it gave us a 1 year of validation, trust, faith, and also revenue and numbers.
So was there magic for you or not?
So, I mean, I will have a very different take on this, right? So, I personally am very skeptical of going on national television trying to pitch what we are trying to do, because usually these are where you want to demo or present a product that can be consumed on camera or tested on camera and hope for some overnight virality. We don't have any of those expectations, right? So from the initial time, I was very skeptical that what am I going to, go and do there? What's the outcome for me? But I think thanks to Mudit personally and the entire team Ideabaaz who encouraged us. That's why you see, I think half or probably more than half is a deep tech panel here. So one of the great ideas about Ideabaaz that I liked was they were actively encouraging deep tech startups to come on board, because that's a glass ceiling that they did shatter, and with their partnerships with IIT Madras, etc. So that was one reason for us to go there. Second was also when we were working with the Ideabaaz team, how to of course, it's very different when you're pitching to a subject matter expert or let's say an investor. But now you have to pitch this to a mass audience. And how would you dumb it down and yet convey the entire message and your story? So that was also a great takeaway from the Ideabaaz platform. So given that how deep tech is emerging in the country, and I think and also the 8 regional telecasts that was done. So Ideabaaz has put the spotlight on right set of founders and builders. And in fact, so our show aired on the new year, just after the new year. And coincidentally, the day our episode aired, the next day the Honorable Union Education Minister was in Bangalore, and he invited us. We met him. He heard about our show. He saw the show. We met him in Bangalore, spent a lot of time, and he was also very happy to note that such initiatives are coming up, and such initiatives are spotlighting the right set of builders as well. So
And post the telecast, so you met the minister, but any other sort of, from a hiring perspective maybe, or is there some orders? Are you near that?
it's
stage?
just been, I think, a week. So but it definitely did send a strong message across all social media channels, bringing a lot of credibility to the work that we are doing.
Ritvik?
So my story was a little bit different because there were very unreal experience I had on that set itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The buzzer.
There was so
Yeah.
I do remember, the day when I, went on the stage, I had a talk with Mudit. I asked him, see, if it is the same concept how Shark Tank is it, then I'm going back home. I don't know. I don't want my 2.5 years of struggle, just be shattered on the stage. So, we had a whole day conversation, that, Ritvik, we are trying to bring tier 2, entrepreneurs, with deep tech understanding, so on and so forth. So, when there was a script which was being, modified. So, a lot of discussion went on that how the technology would be word around. So, the word of Odin Khatola was given now. So, that was something which, two things which marked the complete, persona from the show. One was a buzzer because no one expected it. Neither I expected anything. So, I can ask you that, is this really happened? So that was something which was taken, on a very positive note, because I, coming from a very, from young perspective, then people sometimes tends to believe, that there are so many people in the same field, in the same education, in the same, industry. They bring out a 20 years of experience and you bring down, a young blood. So how do you actually, penetrate that particular thing? And I think the show, for the last 2.5 years, what we were trying to explain, it was just done in the, that 17 minutes of that particular thing. And that validation happened because of you itself. Yeah. So,
No, it's what you presented, Ritvik.
so I think, it was literally 2.5 years, at no pay. So we had, 7 people team. No one was paid anything. We used government grants, completely just developing products and everything itself. And everyone had the trust that, someday we'll be able to put it down. And I think from that perspective, till today, if you see, we were, we don't have to tell that what we are building. We just have to, now showcase that what we have, achieved so forth. And, going from that perspective of from B to G, that what we were building for, then understanding that there is a more market into it. And that got open for us. We started meeting a lot of people from B2B, understanding ki, this is your product. It's good. We can integrate into supply chain. We can integrate into dockyards, and we can do it for you. And that actually helped us understand ki, building is good, but now the recognition of actually deploying it is now becoming easy for us. So I going to 4 people and then telling, it became a single person calling me directly and then taking it forward.
But are you getting inbound calls? Is anybody calling you guys? Are
Yeah.
they saying, "Arey, aapka product chahiye, yeah, we want to invest in you"? Are you getting those
We in
calls?
fact got call from ITPO
Hmm.
because we were working with ITPO earlier also, but to translate that relationship into an MOU happened because this was on a national television. Archana, also I would like to highlight what happened. See, at the end of the day, like people who choose to work at startup, right, they also require a lot of courage, right? It's uncertainty that they deal with. So for us, what mattered to us most was our team was super excited. You know, now they're looking to work with us with a lot more passion, with a lot more, and even the kind of candidates that we now attract is far different. The quality of candidates that we now get to interview are far different, because somewhere that, you know, team matters a lot for us, and for you to attract the right set of talent. I think that was also one of the very good byproduct.
Any other inbound
Yeah.
customers?
We had
कौन आया है?
a lot of, so from the day till today, you know, I still get a lot of call, you know, from people investing on a personal note. You know, they want to invest a small check size.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
We got one of the biggest job portals of India, which I don't think so should be named. The first call to us was from Naukri team, InfoEdge team. Like, we saw you guys on the first episode. Are you still looking for more funds? Kind of a.
I think that was a turning point, because, you know, when someone sees a validation, you know, from national television, they tend to believe that even this small capital of, let's say, 5 lakh is something which is going at worth. So that was something which I still get a call. You know, I still never tell them, you know, that I just tell them that, you know, we have closed everything. You know, I'm really looking forward. You know, we can look back in the next round, so on and so forth. But that was something which you know, didn't happen in the last 2.5 years. I have personally, you know, interacted with a lot of people all across India telling that what we are building. And with that episode being aired, I was able to get all the calls. The reason for that, because my number was listed everywhere. So the first thing they told me was, it's good that you are.
Put it in our comment section also. This episode, so you can get more calls.
Yes. So somebody told me, please remove your personal number. You know, and
Founder हो, personal number तो डालना चाहिए. Why remove it?
yeah, but it's good, you know, there is no filtration. You know, the person is directly calling me and then asking, so am I speaking to whom? I'm like, Ritvik. So they are surprised, so it's your numbers only. I'm like, yes, it's my number only. But, you know, now the difficulty here is I'm getting calls all throughout the day. You know, there is no limit into it. Either it's been morning, either it's been evening, and difficult.
Isn't that a great problem to have?
Yeah, that's a good problem to solve for.
Better than phone being silent.
Yeah, you know.
Hand over a phone to the next person that you have in your team. Let them handle the customer.
अरे AI bot लगा दो. What's the point of technology if you can't do all those things? Yeah.
But I think it's not something which we were able to do it in India. We were getting the traction from outside India. So, you know, the investors who were reaching out from Europe and Australia itself. You know, they were trying to understand ki, if you're building this, let's say in India, can we be a part of your technology? Can we be a part of your journey itself? And I think ek कहना कि, you know, we want to take it global, and then you actually getting a persona of making it global was something we got the limelight for.
So how was your life after the episode aired?
So like before the episode, we were very skeptical because our customers don't really sit in media. You know, oil and gas, shipping, nobody sits in front of the media. So we were like, and there was similar one startup which came on Shark Tank, which didn't work out because of, you know, the sharks didn't understand there. But what worked out for us was we got all 5 Titans deal. A great validation from all of them gave us a great credibility. So parents understood, the team was pumped up little more, and suddenly people who didn't even used to, you know, bother or think about us started really caring about us. But what magically happened was, soon after the show, we were in our early discussions to fundraise a second round, but airing was too far. Just after the shoot, right, just that part, we were able to close, and we were oversubscribed. We raised 1.5 mil in that period. We were oversubscribed.
Super. Well done.
And because of the show, we don't know how our inbound came in, but we got a Malaysian order which we never expected it would come.
You got an order?
We got an order which otherwise we should have put so much checker in India to get like 5-6 jobs to match that number. We got direct, you know, like, I don't know if you could quote, but 1 CR direct contract value with one of the largest oil and gas company. But I really don't know how did they discover us. Maybe, you know, all the SEOs and all the media thing that, you know, actually worked out. They called us, and to be honest, our product is not ready for deployment. It is still the first prototype that we have, but we managed to complete the work successfully, and now, you know, they are looking forward to continue the work with us. And apparently the time the show aired, Even for us, like Israel aerospace industry, we were part of their New Spear Accelerator program. So the whole IA team was, like pumped up seeing our show. They're like, wow, this is during the Accelerator program. So, it's a great add-on to the show, and they're all very excited to work. So for us, overall, things have worked out, pretty good. And now wherever we're going to pitch, it's much easier. It's great validation, I would say.
So the oil and gas guys do watch TV. Is that what you're saying? The decision becomes in oil and gas. Yeah, here in Malaysia. So you're now finding that your customers understand and don't ask you too many questions. I mean,
They do ask because
I mean, you don't have to educate them basically.
yeah, so this is a segment where if I'm talking to my customer, they already know this segment. But for a larger part of non-technical people who are watching, for them it becomes easier. But for my customers, they are well versed with this tech. They'll understand all of these things. But storytelling has become much simpler.
So, storytelling is this big sort of, like a thing that founders find very challenging, and they're like, "Arey, we don't know storytelling, who'll understand us?" So, do you feel that this helped? Like you were saying that it helped you and you were skeptical at one level. Or do you think that, like especially the deep tech founders here, do you think it's unimportant? Especially for deep tech.
I think it is important. At the end, you still have to convey your technology. And what such exercises like Ideabaaz does is it opens up. Like for me and Jitendra personally, we are very bad with camera, very bad with social media. Even our
Right now, by the way, you're getting away on camera right now.
so we ask 1,000 times, and in our head, in our mind, we stop ourselves 1,000 times to, "Arey, chhod do. Let me not post it, let me not put it out." We are in B2B defense. Why do I have to be media centric? But this exercise gave us that self-confidence. It opened up. Now we are, little more comfortable on cameras, sharing. But at the end, you need to still convey your technology to masses. That's where you can build a brand.
No, but you know your technology because you're building it. The question is, how do you communicate to all the stakeholders?
I mean, yeah.
I believe storytelling is like prime job of founders. Making a product is the easiest part.
Easiest part.
Selling it, I'll explain.
ठीक क्या बोल रहे हो?
So let's compare. Let's compare.
Yeah.
Let's take an EV tool. You have created your first prototype, but to sell it, that is where the real challenge comes. You create a drone or you create a parking management system. You create a wonderful headphones which can help you in getting better sleep. It can relieve your entire stress. Especially for all the founders, we can relate. But the selling it is the real game. Is the real challenge. That's why the distribution is the king.
That's why exactly is the point, Archana. What Ideabaaz did was, see, for example, Timbuktu is good at storytelling. That we did it from the day one of building, because we are a very Gen Z focused, student focused, right? Every day there should be a new story, and story differs from selling it to an investor, to a customer. There are different multiple version of stories, but I think it's the distribution where the real game is. It's not just creating the content, tell a story, but the way you distribute the content. I think that's where the founders' intelligence.
Even if you're not distributing content, for example, most of us are B2B, right, or defense. Telling the story to a B2B client, to defense, to the officers, or to the investors, it's a story at the end of the day. If I say I make wonderful cakes, it's not special. How I make my cake better than everybody else? Why my cake is better? What is your challenge? What is your pain point? That storytelling makes a difference. It's actually, I read it on a billboard while I was traveling in a metro, on some metro station. It is not about what is your product. It's not what you sell. It's about how you sell. So that's the difference.
I think Ideabaaz storytelling was all about, how you said it. It was never about putting a product first. It was about, adding the, USP and a differentiator first, and then putting a product next. And I think that's why the storytelling from Ideabaaz, if you see from every one of us, had a really solid punchline, either in the middle, either in the starting or in the end, which put it the differentiator for all of us, that, that story is coming out like that.
And I feel actually when you ask for the deep tech founders, right, I feel storytelling is way more important for the deep tech founders.
Exactly.
Because we are creating a category, I'm educating audience, I'm telling that I'm health 2.0. So I have to first define health 2.0, then I have to explain neurotech, then I have to say how can I do it in a headphone, and why why are others not able to do it? All of this in 30 seconds to 1 minute, and then bringing the efficacy science, dumbing it down enough so that mass people understand it, but not enough that you lose credibility. So all the more the storytelling becomes way more important. And be it deep tech or consumer tech, because I'm literally at the boundary of both of it, it's very important as to how we are marketing our product, because it has to have emotion. It has to have that this product as a gig, as a parking space, can save time, can save your life, can save your important moments and mental space, which can be freed out by other stuff actually.
That is where we learned, don't focus on your solution, focus on the problem first. Like in our case, parking is something that we tolerate. It's a problem that we have learned to live with. We don't enjoy it.
Yeah,
So
it's a pain.
we learn.
It's a pain.
That's what Ideabaaz taught us.
Good. I'm really happy to hear that. So, you know, like when a show like Ideabaaz gets built, I mean, one hope is that many young people, not just young people, but many people watch it and hopefully become entrepreneurs. So, what would is that you would like to say to those people who watched, Ideabaaz or any entrepreneur sort of show where entrepreneurship is celebrated, basically? What's the takeaway for people who maybe are sitting on the fence कि अच्छी job करनी चाहिए, you know, let's not become an entrepreneur just yet. Like what would be the message you feel?
I think Apur can answer it better because he's the first time. I mean, he just was with a corporate and shifted to I.
So I've actually worked for 5 years in, brands like Swiggy and all in their consumer category management teams. And that thing inside was, it kept building up कि कुछ करना है, ठीक है, I think.
क्यों build कर रहा था?
Ma'am, two reasons the. One is, see, my parents are, civil servants, and I always wanted to do some service for the country. And of course, I had to learn a lot about business, but I also felt I wanted to do something. And second thing is, I don't know, I'm someone, when I learn something, I learn it for good. So I felt like, अब जो मेरे bosses भी बता रहे थे, I'm able to preempt. अब मेरे को कुछ अपना idea जो ज़्यादा करना था. I just had that thing that I want to try it. And I'll tell you, I've heard this in many places. The most addictive drug is a good salary.
It is.
After having worked for 5-6 years, where I was comfortable, right? It took a lot to quit, and honestly, I had another plan at that time. It was to build a D2C brand basically, but it was to source Indian rural goods and give them like a proper forest essentials kind of a branding and make it global. But anyway, that was just a dream at that time. But I felt like I just wanted to quit to figure it out, and I met Maitri at that time. So the message that and I really loved that. I think that Timbuktu will change the way the future of Indian work is, right? But the message that I would want to leave for people like me who see, I can't talk because I was not an entrepreneur right out of college or during college. But for people like me who've got that little bit of experience in corporate, especially if you have startup experience, I would say to just go for it and do it once, because if you don't try, you'll never know, A, and B, at some point you got to start contributing outwards rather than just inwards, right? So what you do out will compound and come back to you. So that would just be my message, that especially if you're a corporate employee or a startup employee who's been there for some time, but just on the fence primarily because yaar pata nahi ho payega ya nahi. If that is the main thing, then karna hi chahiye.
I think entrepreneurship is real compounding for everybody, all across.
I've only done this, Archana. I've been there in this system. This is my third cycle with trying to be successful in whatever definition it's. So actually better than salary, actually building is, actually that's the addiction. I cannot go back to a normal job. I don't think so in my life I can do, because I've done this, like I'm saying, it's my third time. Every day, that kick that I get in the night, just to see the kind of progress we do from, previous night to tonight, it's actually, that's the best addiction. If again, like him, if I have to leave the message on the table for people who watch shows and aspire, do it. Fail, it's okay, get up, redo it, or you want to quit. But once take the chance, it's actually I think feel a good addiction compared to a salary addiction.
Like for me, if I have to say, during me and Jitendra started soon after college, and we were building a lot of stuff during college. So we used to participate in all these aero modeling competitions and get the prize money and build something out of that. In fact, we bought our first laptop out of that,
Oh,
prize.
nice.
We never asked our parents, get us a laptop. We bought it from our own cash prize that we used to get. So I would say, like, at that age, right, when you're in college, you have a lot more cushion to fail. Nobody is going to judge you even if you fail, try 100 things. You have that safe net by the college, by your parents. You can ask for extra 5,000 rupees, say that some project or yeah.
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 Smooth plug. Smooth plug.
Yeah. So they were good cushion to fail. Then immediately when we started after college, for us it was like we never did a corporate job. So you don't have a mental net to be certain way, do certain things. We were like very free. Like at that age, you are very free to experiment. You are scare free. You really don't think like what if I fail question never appears to you. So I think at that age, that's the freedom you get to do certain things, and that is what the power and strength that immediately after college when you want to start you get it. I think that's the biggest thing.
Ritik, since I know your story a little bit, like you are really trying to keep, body and soul together. You're really, scrimping because it's been challenging financially. So, when somebody sees your story where it has been challenging financially, right? What would you like to say to somebody who is on the fence about being an entrepreneur?
I started while I was studying, and whenever somebody asks me, so the complete team I have, and I always tell them ki, let's say tomorrow if something goes wrong, you always have an option that you can sit in placements and finally you can take it, because I have taken a risk, but I'm not asking you to take a risk for me. And I've always given them the flexibility that it's all about your life itself. But when I tell them that if you have an idea, so you'll surprise mom. So in the last, it's going to be 3 years now for Kageshwara, and in the last 3 years the team I had, people who are working with me, they started their own entrepreneurship journey, because they understood one thing from me, that it's not about always the failure. It's about that we are standing there, we are still fighting with the people who are trying to push it down the road, that it's not going to work for us. And when they saw me fighting it alone, when they saw me struggling financially and still keeping everything together, mentally and physically there, and they understood that if you really have a vision for it, if you really think that this is something will work for you, then you really have to give a full to it. I just knew one thing, ma'am, from deep down my heart, that if I want to do it, let's just do it till the end. I went into corporate life. I was working parallelly, morning job and then evening Khageshwar I was working in, just to support myself, because financially building a deep tech, you need a finance background. And in the last 3 years or, complete education, I've never asked my parents to put any money. Neither for me, neither for my startup, because they have raised me well. They have taught me well that, you should understand how to bear your own expenses. Used to get stipend from government, used to put everything down. And there was this one saying, with me and with my co-founder, that let's say if tomorrow we fail, we'll fail together. It's fine. We will learn, we'll fail together, we'll understand, we will build new for it. And before Ideabaaz, nobody knows it. And before Ideabaaz, we were literally at negative balance, because we were building a lot. We didn't had any cash in the accounts, and I have resigned everything. I've put down all my savings and everything. And my family was seeing me struggling. And I think going to Ideabaaz and getting that validation, it actually gave us the message that, what we were doing it right. So that is what I always tell everyone, that, it's not about that you will get the fame at the first time. It's always about you trying it, because tomorrow, if you are telling to 100 people, there will be 101 who will appreciate it. And it was you, ma'am, for us.
Yeah. What is the advice you want to give to people who are not jumping in to be an entrepreneur yet?
Again, so my message would be to the younger group of people who, let's say, are aspiring to
Especially younger group, na? Anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur.
any group of people who are aspiring to let's say
Start something.
start something or come to the deep tech segment. I think I have a little contrarian advice. Please don't get glamorized by hearing us or by seeing this show or an Ideabaaz episode, etc. This is just probably 1% of a life of an entrepreneur that is outside in the public domain that you are looking at. So it does extract a heavy toll. I can relate from his story because that was me 1 year back. So we Spacefields is 4 years old now. So we did not take any salaries for 3 years. We pitched to almost 200 VCs before we raised our first round, and we we have been met with skepticism at every step, right? So whether it is customers, whether it is investors, whether it is attracting the right kind of talent. So taking all of that mental pressure itself, you should be prepared, of what you are signing up for. A lot of people today, because entrepreneurship is somehow being glamorized, do not understand that cost fully. So that would be my message. Even a lot of youngsters who reach out to me, and specifically someone who wants to now, defense tech has
Become very attractive. Yeah, it's
has
very.
got a lot of this hype, especially after Op Sindoor. But most people don't understand what this sector demands, right? Who we are going to sell.
CNC trials. No cost, no commitment.
Yeah.
I'm an ex tech officer of defense. I used to do all of this with other startups
Yes.
because there are processes.
Yeah. So what you are going to sell, to whom you are going to sell to, the amount of regulations and hoops that you have to cross, the amount of, we always underestimate the amount of capital that we are going to actually need, the amount of time it's going to take to close a certain deal, etc. So all of these things are never known to us beforehand, right? So people who are coming into this sector specifically should have a very, very different kind of stomach and a very, very different kind of patience appetite as well. So that's my message to the founders
But
or
should
upcoming.
people jump in or not and become a founder? Hi, Anna.
Of course they should. I mean,
Yes, that's a.
Also, Archana, I feel being an entrepreneur is a personality. You will develop it over a time. Maybe first time you'll fail, but second time you're better prepared. So it's a personality at the end of a day, with which I think we all can develop.
You basically develop that mental toughness that you need. You need a thick skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll double down on what he said, because the first 2 years of our journey, we literally had zero money and there is no shekel to show income. Asked for money. So,
Every startup, at least 90% of them, yeah, abhi we just start again. So I feel it's just a very personality.
So we had to build another brand called Aerogo, which we used to do a lot of training, whatever we know, right?
Yeah.
Building fixed wing drones. We used to do workshops, low cost DIY kits, sell that in the market, get some money, put back in R&D. So never took salary for whatever 2-3 years. And mine is a single parent. When they were expecting a financial support back in home, to say that, you have to manage by yourself, because I have to manage myself. And that support that you get from parents you must get, otherwise you'll not be able to sustain. Parents, supporting you is must in entrepreneurship. And as you said, you should know what you're signing up for.
So for me, my father has been an entrepreneur for 35 years plus. When I saw him as a kid, I was not happy, because I was like, why is he doing this to himself? Why is he day in, day night taking all those risks? What does he feel? I never understood it. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had a very stable job in Europe. I used to travel 10 countries a year, a crore worth of salary. I was loving it at 22. But then, why I'm trying to say this is because I chose something very different. Salary, not stable. In deep tech, what happens is you face 100 failures daily and you have one success. But what happens after 7 years is the graph is exponential. The impact that you can create in somebody's life is amazing. Somebody had committed suicide, got saved, was trying to commit suicide, got saved. But the fact that our product was able to give them validation that your brain is asking for help was like, oh my God, that's a game changer. Even if one life gets saved in 2 years, 3 years, I'm super happy about it. And as a deep tech founder also who's in health, this is super amazing, because while there are a lot of failures, I understand the parent thing as well, because my parents, I have a kid, mind it. And my parents are still like, when will you get settled? I'm like, I have a kid, I have a husband, what does settle me? You're a founder, na? So I don't know by when something goes off and I would have to help you. And I'm like, I understand. So parents really have to be very supportive emotionally, financially. But it's so rewarding, Archana, so rewarding. despite the number of failures, despite even at 6th year, sometimes there was no bank balance. Just before Ideabaaz, something similar was happening for us as well. And it's still so good when customers give that validation. Finally, after 2 months, I've been able to sleep well without effort, without drugs, without any medication. Just jump into entrepreneurship, but just mind it, there's a lot to compromise, but then it's super fun.
But is it a compromise, or is it that, I mean, you don't know everything that you will have to sacrifice? Yeah.
I have a very unpopular but honest opinion on this. Don't do it. Unless you have an appetite for risk, unless you don't have, especially for those who are into stable jobs, unless you don't have enough savings कि आप 2 साल घर पे बैठ के अपना खर्चा चला सकते हो, at least bills pay कर सकते हो, मत करो. At least have 2 years of savings. When you have, then you should have gained enough conviction to do it. This is foolish to do this, to keep your entire family at stake. For students, I would still suggest, if you really want to build something, first gain at least year or 2 years of experience, work in some startup or in some organization, gain something about how companies work, how organizations work. Without you, if you jump into this space, it's the chances of you getting success is very less. There are very handful of outliers.
Zepto के founders को मत बोलना.
It's a very wrong comparison. Just look at their parents' background. They run a big VC firm of a very big Middle East family. Yeah, they manage a big family office. But that's a different experience. There are always outliers. I'm not saying quoting them, but there are always outliers. But outliers are very less. I'm talking about everybody. Do it only once you have savings.
No, but the counter,
entrepreneurs क्यों हैं?
the counter to that, I'll say, is how do you know you're an outlier till you do it?
Yes.
Like she said, it's a personality.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I'm just talking about the bases for everybody.
No. See, the thing is that you're part of the masses till you become an outlier. How do you become an outlier? Till you don't start. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I would like to quantify a little bit. Let's say if I do a calculation of, let's say I have this much of saving, I have this much of thing, I have a safety net, now I start working on it, I make my own calculations, I calculate it, well I have a problem with a quantifiable solution, it is, let's say it is monetizable at a large scale, then I do it. Now the chance of me succeed is comparatively, let's say 2% less, it's still a big difference.
But
Then
what you can after see, even if you have 2 years of salary, after the 3rd year you can still get fucked.
I mean, what is the guarantee?
Let me quantify it. Let's say 2 साल का आपके पास let's say saving है. The chance of you failing, there's still a net to you.
But Dhananjay, the whole
Asking some
idea of being entrepreneur is to have a thick skin.
That is foolish.
Dhananjay, 1 second. So, we are not people who can influence anybody, and we are not asking anyone, right? The question is, if there's a choice, right? Now, there are lots of people who are unfortunate who also don't have a choice. Let's also take that into account. But if there was a choice, what is it that one should say? Because, see, what has happened in a lot of countries, not just in India, is that entrepreneurship just wasn't an option. Today, it is an option, which is what a show like Ideabaaz sort of is the larger message. Now, the question here is that if people are on the fence, should they jump here? Now, what are the pros and cons? Of course, everybody has to see their own pros and cons. But honestly, there's no formula because
There's no formula.
so that's the point, right? That's what I think everybody's here is trying to say, that can you succeed? Maybe. Can you fail? Maybe. Both are equally a maybe. Because nobody, see, there is luck also. If you talk to some of the world's most successful founders, they'll talk a lot about luck. It's about being in the right place in the right time. There is, of course, your idea. Whether the idea is also at the right time, right place. There are many things that come together to create that outside success. But should it be a viable, should people consider this as a viable option?
Yes,
that was the question.
If you have a chance, don't
I think he put it really in a very nice way. I think that's what I meant to say, what he said exactly.
No, it is. Look, there is glamorization. There's no two ways about it. Because everybody reads the headlines कि ये valuation मिली, ये round size था. Everybody thinks, the other thing, everybody thinks कि किसी ने अगर 10 करोड़ का round raise करा, वो खुद के पॉकेट में जा रहा है. Nobody understands वो कंपनी में जा रहा है. अभी भी तो वो घिसाई कर ही रहे हो. You're not
still an entire loan on you.
Yeah.
Pay करना है every month MIS भेजना. It's not.
When we raised our seed round, my mom was like, यार अब तो तुम लोग करोड़पति हो गए. now वो मेरी pocket में नहीं आया वो इतना $1.25 million.
No, so see, there is a lot. In fact, which then brings me back to the larger point that the more there are these mass entertainment shows like Ideabaaz, it helps communicate maybe a rather correct picture. Because in the inanimate media, na, वो आप headlines देखते हो. There's nobody there to explain कि इसका मतलब क्या है. So there's a lot of misunderstanding. So that glamorization has happened because of that. कि अरे ये unicorn मर
It's
गया.
only because of shows like Ideabaaz that this point, this side is coming out. We are discussing this. Nobody used to destroy all the families.
Now, this is the point at the table when the tables do turn, and you guys can ask me questions. Whoever has questions for me, please feel free.
So Archana, what is it that you look in a founder other than the idea, the valuation, everything aside? What is that founder quality that you particularly look for before investing or before interacting?
I would say dunyadari. Because everything, na, valuation, round size, product kya hai, what's the market, what could happen with this product, is a function of how much you understand the real world. See, if you are going to extract and extrapolate that somebody else got a $1 billion valuation and therefore you should get it, to me, that person is in la la land. So that automatically is a no-go for me. So I think it's a function of, and the other thing, the flip side of this is that you're so desperate for money that you'll take it at any valuation. So even that is problematic for me because the founder is a custodian of that company, especially when you take investor capital. So ultimately it comes down to the founder, net.
Why did you choose to do Ideabaaz? For us as
Oh, that's a good question. I think a little bit of serendipity. Actually, they chose me before I chose parents. So, in the truest sense of the word, I was talent hunted. So it's a true story, and Mudit and Jeet will tell you. So I was doing a fireside chat with Piyush Bansal in Startup Mahakumbh, and these guys saw you there. So then they said, "Arey, would you like to do a show?" And that's basically how it happened. And the reason I did it is actually for what the concept was. I think it's important to tell founder stories, and to your point, you shouldn't glamorize it. I think the real essence of what it takes to build a company is extremely important. But at the same time, it needs to have enough to inspire people because there are a lot of people who are killing their dreams because they don't have a role model, they don't know how to go about it. So this sort of helps people who don't come from backgrounds, and most people don't come from backgrounds where they know what this is.
Ma'am, as a founder, I wanted to ask you a question. So, as now we have a lot of options to raise capital, and I'll stick to the VC route itself. But as founders, what should we be on the guard of? Because I keep hearing this that VC can make or break your startup.
See, good VC is ultimately who understands business and therefore also understands the 0 to 1 journey. Because startup is a 0 to 1 journey. So it's so much of experimentation. You're really trying things, hoping it'll work like hell. But there is a lot of failure because a lot of things don't work, So if an investor doesn't understand that, which is different from, somebody who's being insincere. And of course, there are those kind of people also who'll say, "Oh, we are doing a lot, but startup mein the failure hota hai." That I'm not talking about the unethical lot. But if a VC doesn't understand that whole experimentation, those quick early experiments, and the failure rate that will ensue because of it, and if there's no support at that time, to my mind, it's not the right sort of investor, right? The second problem I think that exists is a lot of VCs again don't understand how a business gets built ground up. So there are expectations of metrics which are completely unreal. So then what's the answer? Arey, let's stuff more money. If you spend more money, you will get higher sort of ARR. No, higher ARR, तो चलो किसी और को टोपी बना देंगे, then we'll get more money into this company. As opposed to, again, it's a fine balance of, yes, businesses need money to be infused. What should be that right capitalization? What will be the outcome? And what do you do when that outcome doesn't match the theory that you started with? But unfortunately, it's like finding a good doctor. You don't know a good doctor from bad till you go to a good to a doctor.
Kill you.
Yeah. जब तुम मर रहे हो तो then you हाँ गलत डॉक्टर के पास गए. So it's unfortunate, but it's by discovery and trial and error that you get to know good VC from a bad.
I'll actually ask one more question. We know about the founder work-life balance. It's messed up, right? We just discovered that also. How is an investor work-life balance look like?
I don't know what that means. Record. And now I'll contextualize this. See, guys, to imagine that life works in neat little parcels, then I think there's a lack of understanding of life itself, right? So at some point, something could happen in your personal life that becomes super messy or really takes everything out of you, but you still have to, in a sense, keep living, right? You still have to put one foot in front of the other. You still have to eat. Life doesn't go away.
Yeah, correct.
So I mean, business or being a founder or whatever you are, is that itself, the whole thing is life. So work is not outside of life. So first of all is that. Second is that, again, back to, this word that we've now put on this table of it being glamorized or the de-glamorized. The fact is that when you're responsible for everything, and a young business is very, very fragile. I mean, even a large business is actually fragile, but a young business is even more fragile. Then it's like what you do with anything that's fragile, right? मतलब पुराने ज़माने में लोग सारी अपनी crockery अंदर रखते थे. They would never take it out because it was fragile. So how do you protect it, right? People put plastic covers on their new car seats because they think it's fragile. So anything that's fragile requires a disproportionate amount of time, energy, effort. So again, I think when people think that lifestyle is more important, which means this neatly tied up little bundle कि मुझे weekend चाहिए, मेरे को summer holiday भी चाहिए, winter holiday भी चाहिए, दिवाली भी पूरा 10 दिन का दिवाली मेरे को and there's nothing wrong. It's about what your aspirations is. If that's your aspiration, then that's the life you need to choose, which means everything about it. So the work that you do or not, the partner you choose, everything has to be there around that.
Archana, I have a question. So, being a VC, you must be getting pitched everywhere, right, left, right corner. What would you suggest to first-time founders, tier 3 founders who have no connect with you or any VC who are not coming from the network? What would be the right cold call or a cold SMS or a cold message to you on LinkedIn or let's say somewhere which will actually pinpoint your interest, will tingle your interest?
See,
A conversation might start somehow.
No. See, conversation. So first of all, I'll say that persistence is very important, especially if you don't come from the ecosystem. You got to keep giving it your best because you don't know when and who will respond. And people also sometimes don't respond because of where they are at. So again, a lot of people don't understand the VC business. So if you've deployed the fund that you've raised, you will not respond at that time because you don't have money to deploy it, right? तो एक वो होता है your own cycle, हमारे business का जो cycle है. So there's that part. Second is maybe you may have burned your fingers in that particular category. So you're not willing to take another chance because your LPs will kill you. Because if you keep, putting money in a category that's already not worked for you, then why are you doing it again? So the point I'm making is, first of all, a founder from a tier 2, tier 3 town who has no inroads into this will have to work that much harder and keep reaching out till you understand why people are either responding or not responding. Right? That's number one. Now, specifically to me, I think, yes. So one unfortunate problem is that when all your communication channels are clogged, so then there's very little time you have, to sort of be able to distinguish between what may be interesting. And so I think the best possible way to grab attention would be to try and meet in person, because at least when you have a visual reference, a person could say something, tell you something about their business. And most people are poor writers. So, LinkedIn message, WhatsApp, लोगों को नहीं लिखना आता है. And honestly, one way is shows like this, because again, you are put in front of people, you get 1 hour to sort of, talk about your product. You do get to network connect with investors. So I think you have to work hard to get investor attention. There is no, because we are undercapitalized in India. There's not enough risk capital in India still.
So I have a question. So so we had a defense and aerospace version of this, right? So I remember we were discussing. I think you had a background in a military prime, right? So you said you'd like to be a defense VC. So is that happening soon?
Good wife. I wish you could tell this to potential LPs if I can raise some money. Yeah, because look, I instinctively like the sector. I feel very close to it, and I think it's a very exciting sector from a technology perspective. So a lot of people see defense as being aggressive. I see it as being able to protect what is important and valuable to us, right? So therefore, it is important. If you don't see it as offense, but really defense, then therefore it has a very meaningful space. But yeah, so the sector is of course of great interest. But on that note, I'm going to close this edition of Startup Table with AJ. I want everyone to subscribe to our channel, to like our channel, to encourage all these founders who come, give their time, do comment. If any of these founders you want to reach out to, do reach out to them. We will tag all of them. And thank you all of you for joining. Hope there are going to be big companies we all build, legacy, wealth creation, job creation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.